I don't do a ton of direct core work. A lot of it is just, stabilization stuff because that's kind of what I'm using it for in powerlifting. Like there's no lift where I'm having to like use my abdominals to lift a weight, right? Like it's more me using my core to counterbalance. And quite frankly, I'm trying to think about sports where you're actually like doing sort of a crunching movement where you're bringing your core. And for the most part, you're looking at combat sports. You're looking at MMA where like if somebody's on top of you, trying to get them off, wrestling, those sorts of things. For most other sports, the abdominals are more of kind of a stabilization or, they're being used to, lock your trunk in. So I think, looking at whatever sport it is and saying, all right, what are the positions that person is in? What are some analogous, like what makes the most sense for this individual, like what their goal is, and then trying to build like a core program around that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I think as well, though, like there's so many Gen Pop clients who have this idea where they're like, I have a weak core. I need to strengthen my core. So it's like we go down the path of compound movements, but then it's like give them a little bit of what they want as well. Right. So it's like they get a little bit of core work, but we educate them as well. Is that sort of the approach that you would take too? Or
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like if you injure your lower back, the automatic is, well, you had a weak core, weak glutes. And, I'm like, I squat over 600 pounds and deadlift over 700 pounds. I don't think my core and glutes are weak, like, no, and then it's like, okay, so now I'm supposed to do like little, like pink dumbbells, stabilization. Like I don't, when the first time I went to a really good physical therapist, it was funny. She was having me do some stabilization exercises where I was moving through a dynamic movement. And it was funny. I went to pick up like 10-pound dumbbells and she goes, what are you doing? I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, that's like nothing for you. Go pick up the 50s. And I was like, oh, and I was like, oh, okay, like I dig this. Like this is somebody who actually gets it, and it really is true. Like if you're, you have to, the average person, right, who isn't resistance trained, if they go do PT or core work or whatever with really light weights, like that is going to be a benefit to them. But if somebody's really strong, like that's not like, what is that doing? Probably nothing. So I think building it to their fitness level, to their particular goals. But I do agree that like, the root of everything is not a weak core and weak glutes. Like that is not the root of everything. And the other thing about people who are all about like the weak core, I'm like, look at how much core work you're already doing. Like if it's weak, then your programming really sucks, right? So, again, not to say that you can't injure your lower back from having a weak core or that doesn't happen for a lot of people. But I think for people who are like pretty resistance trained, I think it's less of a problem than a lot of people think it is. But you're right. Sometimes we have to placebo our clients a little bit and give them a little bit of what they want just so they'll do the work. You know what I mean? And so that is something you have to balance.